Betsy, this is just our little informal chat to kind of come down after the euphoria of doing two television shows together.
Good, let us start.
So now we can relax a little bit and
Good.
put our feet up or something like that. But I was just, this is not your first movie. You were in a movie before about Ms. Pulitzer, were you not?
Yes, I was. I loved it. I'd been in a couple of them. As a matter of fact, all I did, I think, in high school was stay on the stage. I loved it. I won the county award for the best actress. Imagine. So.
Really? What were some of the plays you were in?
Oh, the play was. I haven't even seen it since. I have a little book of the words. It was called. It was about young April, and I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to find it someday again.
Resurrected. Maybe we can put it on to the theater in Jacksonville.
Yes, we'll redo it. But no, I was at Lee High School, my last 2 years of high school, and I'd always loved the theater somehow, and I don't know, went on to the University of North Carolina and didn't do much with the theater, but I did a lot of other things sort of related offside of the theater.
And so how did you get in the Pulitzer movie? What was that movie called?
They just called me up. They were going to make the movie. It was about Lily Pulitzer's ex-husband and his girlfriend, and which was kind of a little evil thing, really, because I learned stuff about things that little bad people do, such as looking at cocaine on the top of a birthday cake, and people were going, because it was all a fake thing, but they were showing these things that were really pretty eye-opening.
Indeed.
And but I know that the first scene they took, if you want to hear about it real quick,
sure,
was out at Epping Forest, and we were there. The man that worked for me took me out at 6:30 in the morning, because that dressed in full evening attire, because we were going to have dinner. That happened to be the time they started the movie. Started that scene. So we sat at the dining room table, and then they brought in plates that, they were already actually there, that had already been cut on and half eaten, and rolls that had been buttered, as if we'd been sitting there having a conversation. I'd never really seen that before, but it was worlds of fun. And then probably I was so supposedly a Palm Beach socialite, and Cindy, what was her last name? Anyway, she was the star, the girl, she was just married back from a honeymoon to the Pulitzer boy. And Mrs. Pulitzer is the one that designed the Pulitzer dresses and colorful fabrics and every sort of thing. But there we sat, and so somebody said to her, and she was directly across from me at the dining room table, somebody said, well, now tell us, where did you go on your honeymoon? And she described this place and mentioned it in the name and said, oh, it was just marvelous. And she looked at me and she said, and you should see it. And I said, oh, darling, I have. I own it. Because I was supposed to have been some snotty rich Palm. Well, you know, they went boom, sold, correct, just like that. Well, the upstart was she got upset because it was really so crazy and funny that they cut it for her to keep on in the show.
Indeed, indeed. Well,
but then
that's
again,
exciting.
I had another few comments too, but I don't know.
Well, you know, being in full evening attire.
At 6 in the morning, 6:30.
But it brings us back to Cuba and some of the strolls you probably took on the Malecon with Billy and his friends.
It was so gorgeous. You could look out from the hotel, the National, and it just called to you to come visit. It wandered along, and the posts, the street lights, and then they were between the light and the closest one. It was strung with more little lights, not really Christmassy kind of things, just glorious. And the moon would be high up above, reflecting in the water and all the glory from its view up high. It was all so very beautiful. I will have to admit, though, I don't think any more beautiful than I look out on the St. Johns River now.
Oh, isn't
And
that
our
sweet?
joy with that moon up there. And it's almost like a stairway to the stars when it comes, the shadow or the beams come straight down to the bulkhead.
There's no place like home, and that's
And no place like Jacksonville.
oh, that's right, and that's
Number one, and I've seen a lot of places. I think that's one thing I can honestly in my heart say. I've been blessed because I've been so many places, glorious places, all over various islands with these natives and things. But when I come back to Jacksonville, I would just rejoice. I still think it is just almost heaven, is as close as I can get without being there. The people are wonderful. The business is good. Everything about our lives is wonderful.
Well, and what one of 10 American heritage rivers designated by Congress. That river right there. One of only 2 rivers in the world that flows north.
Well, now
like the
somebody
Nile.
said there's actually a third, and it's in Russia.
Well, there's always somebody
Oh,
out there
somebody
disputing
always
your
has
word.
another
You know,
idea.
It was
But
probably
I
fake
grew up
news.
knowing, and it was the Nile
Mm-hmm.
and the St. John's.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Betsy, let me ask you this. It's been what, 55, well over 50 years since you were in Cuba. You're pretty excited about going back, aren't you?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Well, as I said, it was so beautiful. I don't care. It's been well, placed on the back burner. By that I mean, no, they haven't had the money to fix and do. As you know about the cars and all. The buildings have deteriorated, but they can all be reversed. Look at the ancient
easily.
buildings in Egypt, around the world, everywhere.
Easy. And so if given the opportunity, you'd probably
It can be resurrected.
You and me would probably see if we couldn't raise $1,000 to paint some of those buildings.
I think we should, $1,000 a column.
Oh, that's getting a little too pricey for my blood.
Well, it is a little pricey, but but all of that it's not going to be that expensive, but it will be a joy to have it done.
But am I right to characterize your thrill about the going back there after 50 or more years and about reconnecting those people with the historic relationship between Jacksonville and that island nation? From the earliest days when Napoleon Bonaparte Broward was the absolute hero to the Cubans. He was like Robin Hood or something like that. Really, I'm not exaggerating.
No, he was.
I've read about this.
Absolutely,
But
and to
your
Jacksonville.
excitement is really about reconnecting with people that you adored and with people who had soul and energy, boundless energy.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right?
You're absolutely right, and it absolutely should be done. It's got to be a project for both of us, for Jacksonville particularly to lead. And it's got every opportunity. It really does. There's so much here. We have we have the ocean, we have the river, we have the...
And a magnificent seaport, which could accept the ships from Cuba right now. They're not going to be super tankers.
No.
They're going to be
No.
smaller
Absolutely.
ships. And if they come here instead of down south, they go, they save at least a day, and it's all about money, logistics. You know that. You were in the shipping business.
Yeah.
You must have learned something about it from Billy.
Well, by osmosis, I presume, just hearing it. No, but it was. If there are so, there were. Well, Mr. Lovett owned the 6 cruise ships out of Miami for about 10 years.
What were those ships called?
Well, there was the Bahama Star, the Ariadne. It was that was a German, almost like a private yacht. It was so beautiful.
Lordy, did you know you just took me back? Because when I was a kid in 1953, I was a hair younger than you. I was in.
Well, you look a lot younger.
I was in 7th grade, and I remember the names of those ships. I must have picked that up in the paper or somebody mentioned
Well,
it.
there were very few ships going out of Miami because most of them were foreign. These were all local. And then he got a new one called the New Bahama Star. Well, 500 passengers was a big ship. Well, now they have 5,000 passengers. I think it's wonderful for some people, but I do not wish to be on a ship with 5,000, rolling on a ship with 5,000 people. It would be a little difficult to, it just is more complicated.
Betsy, I can't let this pass up without asking you about the Jacksonville of the 1950s. Tell us about Jacksonville, the downtown, the economics, the what you remember that you loved about it, because you love Jacksonville.
Well, I do, but I loved, well, there were so many good things. There were still some beautiful old buildings that we've replaced a lot of them.
Yeah, those magnificent, like the Seminole Hotel and the George Washington
and
Hotel.
the Roosevelt's now something else.
And
I
the
don't
Thomas Jefferson.
But there were beautiful hotels. There were beautiful dress shops, clothing stores, men's clothes. The Levy's, First Goods. May Coins was early on, became Coins, and then went on to be.
Yeah, and so many great civic organizations. You know, the Jacksonville JCs, the Junior Chamber, 600 or 800 of them.
Why don't we get
young
them all
people.
back?
Well, the JCs are still going strong. It's one of
but
the
I mean, get them
biggest
all
chapters
involved in this.
in the country. Yes, yes.
They can help do all the rejuvenation of this place. And of course, we didn't have anything like the Jaguars, but we still had a lot of football, but it wasn't quite on the grand scale.
Florida, Georgia.
The Florida-Georgia game is, goodness, I don't know how much before Jacksonville that was. I mean, before 50 that was.
Oh, I think it went into the 30s.
How far back that went, but that's always been. But there were groups. We did not, I mean, the young people sort of all went in groups, and age didn't matter. You didn't just go with one person your whole life. You knew so many, and it was a great time of fun and casualness. Sadly, there is always sadness and a lot of people unable to participate.
Let me ask you this. You would have been a rather young debutante in the day, but in 1956, Elvis Presley played the Florida Theater. Were you there?
I certainly was not. And
Sorry, Elvis. I'm really sorry.
No, the reason I say that is it's strange for me to say, but you know the little English boys, what are they called? Oh, great heavens. You know,
the Beatles.
The Beatles. We were told they were just so pitifully tacky, and I never saw them. They are loaded with style, talent, everything that everybody would want to be on the stage.
Yes, indeed.
But like Elvis Presley, he was the leg swinger and whatever else. But look at what he did. And also, he built the museums after the Pearl Harbor. He was in that movie called The Blue Lagoon in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there was all this other. But he built the museums to the bombing, and all the artifacts are stored there because of him. And I mean, they were amazing people, but I guess we were kind of prudish or something. We hadn't seen we hadn't seen all that hip slinging and.
Yeah. What do you remember about the politics in Jacksonville. Of course, Hayden Burns was the mayor.
Hayden Burns.
Did you have occasion to meet Hayden Burns?
Hayden Burns? Well, I don't think as a young person I knew as much about the politics, the political scene, as I should have. But we went on to, we've always had pretty good mayors.
Indeed,
And
but I know you knew United States Senator George Smathers.
George Smathers actually lived down on the point from me. He and his wife, in the wintertime, rented a house down there. And my husband and I were included with Ferris Bryant, who was married to Billy's cousin, second, third cousin. So we went to Washington for the inauguration. You know, that was one thing I think about on that. There were thousands, it seemed to me, people at that ball the first night. And we had wonderful seats. I sort of sat down right below where
Must be
Kennedy's.
yeah.
Kennedy was, and Jackie was there. Well, that night, this friend of mine said, "Come on, Betsy, let's go upstairs." Her husband was a senator from Maryland, and go see Jack Kennedy. And I thought, well, how do you do that? Well, I trailed right on along behind her. We never saw a security guard, not one.
Not one.
We walked up those steps, and Jack came out, and Jackie was on the front row here on the balcony with her white, beautiful gown and so forth, and her hair all done so pretty. No security anywhere. Jack walked over and said, "Hey, girls, how you doing?" You know, and we just chatted away as if we're chatting right now.
Oh, he just kind of said, he said, "Betsy, it's so good to see you here at the inauguration, and who is your friend?" Did I come close?
Close, you did. He was kind of funny and fun the way he talked, but he wasn't really a well man a lot of the time.
No.
He had a lot of struggles.
Well, that's an exciting story, you know. But Jacksonville, the economy. Of course, you had the grocery stores and your shipping. What other things do you remember about the economy in those days in Jacksonville?
Well, I don't.
Pretty booming, you know.
All I knew is it looked to me like everything was going great, and it certainly was a different set of money. How much one had. We got, I might just tell this one little story. We got 50 cents on Saturday, which was a fortune. We thought, we couldn't believe.
Is this when you were a kid?
Yeah, I was 10,
Yeah.
9 and 10.
Yeah.
And we could roam the streets. We lived on Hedrick Street. We went up to St. John's Avenue. Well, we'd catch the bus right up there on the corner. 10 cents for the bus ride downtown, because they had a Friday morning matinee at the Florida Theater. And they had the organ that would rise up out of its little casing down here. And Bobby Knight would play the organ, you know, with one hand up here, one level of keys and so forth. And then the theater would have the words up here, and the red ball would dance around. And so we would sit there when he did that. But anyway, back to this 10-cent bus ride, 15 cents for the theater, that's 25. 10 cents, we had a break. We could go down and buy to the Crystal Burger, which was right there on the first Crystal Burger in town on that corner. And we could buy a nickel hamburger and a nickel Coca-Cola. That's 45 cents. No, that's 35. We could, and 10 cents to get on the bus to ride home. We had a nickel. And we could go to the dime store and buy 5 things. We thought we had struck gold. It was just unbelievable.
50 cents,
and we'd get
wow.
for a penny, we'd get a double bubble gum. And I know practically everybody's had double bubble
Oh, yeah,
blowing.
of course.
For 1 penny, it was about that big. Now it's, you know, maybe 10, 20, 30 cents or something that big.
Now, Betsy, there was a dark time in your life when you were about 9, when folks thought you were going to die. You were in the hospital.
I know it.
I want you to share that story.
Well, it was really sort of a miracle, and I cannot be grateful enough the rest of my life. No, actually what happened, I'd been sick for 2 or 3 weeks, and there was a little boy at St. Vincent's Hospital, 5 years old, who had been sick for maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something, spinal meningitis. Well, my baby doctor, as we called them, was a Harvard research man and a pediatrician, and he was studying all the latest things that happened to be coming out.
Yeah, this was St. Vincent's, was it not?
St.
Okay.
Vincent's. What did I say wrong? Oh, excuse me.
No,
Maybe I
no,
didn't-
no, no, no.
Maybe
You
I
didn't
didn't
say.
but it was St. Vincent's.
I just pried it out of you.
Good, St. Vincent's. And he had ordered a medication from Philadelphia to be brought in for this little boy with spinal meningitis. And it arrived on a Saturday. They gave it to him, but sadly the little fellow passed away that night. I went in, they just gave up on me, and I went in Sunday morning, was the day of my birthday.
Yeah, and what did they say you
And
had?
they said, there's nothing we could do but just split her wide open and see if we can't find what the problem is. So it was totally exploratory. And I ended up having, and it's in the medical books because they've kept it, pneumococcus, peritonitis, and a massive ruptured appendix. He said it was practically in my arms. It was all so horrible. But then they sealed me up, gave me, and told Mother I probably might have an hour at best, so come in and look at me. And somehow they started me immediately on this sulfanilamide, which was well before any of the antibiotics, penicillin, any of those things were unavailable. I mean, none of them were available at that time. And they started me on it, and I, of course, don't know, 2 or 3, whatever, a couple of days later, or maybe that day, I certainly don't remember, but they did a transfusion. They just did everything they could try. They put a cot beside my hospital bed, and this big fireman came in and stretched out, and we did an arm-to-arm transfusion, which is crazy, because I tell a lot of the doctors, they say they've never seen it. But it really, Mother stood at the foot of my bed, and she told me later, she said they were pumping and whatever they do to get the blood. I don't know how it works at all. But she said, looked at me and said, your cheeks are coming up just like rosebuds. I didn't hear it, but she said they all were just amazed. And so each hour was an hour of hope, and I did survive, and it took me a long time to recover. And of course, I laughed with them. I have an incision from my top all the way straight down. It's still about 1 inch wide, and you can see every big stitch, but it kept me alive and sealed up. And I laughed with them. Later, I said, look what you did to me. I mean, because I was in, I said, I never could wear a bikini because you know how they're cut down to nothing, and I'd have this enormous incisions. But I was well, and I guess, I don't know.
And God bless St. Vincent's and the fire department.
Exactly, and I'm just because I was too mean to go. Nobody wanted me. The door's up yonder. No, but I really have. So as a result, it's been a wonderful trip for me with a lot of privileges I've had working with young people, working with sick, just being grateful.
And now I sense that you want to do some of the same kinds of good works, helping people, giving people a little lift up, raising all boats down in Cuba.
We're going to see that Cuba has the medical help. There is so much. It's awful to think that there is help that can be done, but I do think their health issue has been better than many of the other things involving Cuba. That's part of, I think, his control, keeping them healthy.
Indeed, indeed.
But you really have to have it. You have to. So whatever we can do and whoever can join us and move forward with this will be the greatest thing that can happen.
And to be invited by Betsy Lovett to go on a mission to plant the flag of Jacksonville, Florida, back in Cuba, that island nation is quite an honor for
To
anybody.
make Cuba great again.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what we have to do.
There you go.
For those people of Cuba.
And
for those
to build an ally instead of an old
and to
adversary.
work with them and to help them so they can help themselves.
Well, this has just been another enchanting, interesting, historic learning experience with you,
Well,
Betsy. I
loved
can't
it.
thank you enough.
I've loved it, and I just tell you, if anyone listens to it, I thank you, and I thank you. But it's been wonderful, and it will work.
Thank you, Betsy Lovett. God
Thank
bless
you.
you.
Thank
And
you.
God bless you for watching, and People and Politics will be back later on YouTube and perhaps even on television. So stay tuned and be well. God bless America.